Bismillah. I thought let's speak on risk. Such an important topic. And I thought let's begin. Speaking of enlightened quotes, a quote by Maulana Jalaluddin Rum right there: before death takes away what you are given, give away what there is to give. Just a kind of wake-up quote. And it's interesting because it'll come back, it'll tie back to this. So keep thinking, keep that in the back of your mind, that before death takes away what you are given, give away what there is to give. Because truly in giving, there is a life. You see, you bring something to life. You also kill a bit of the nafs. You kill a bit of the nafs. But you know, when I thought about let's cover this topic of risk because it's so important, and I thought about giving and receiving, it's all very too important, it's all incredibly too important to highlight that risk does not have to just mean money, okay, or food. And I wanted to first of all just begin with that, lay the ingredients out. So risk is providence, what is given to you, this kind of divinely granted, bestowed providence from God. And often people think, yeah, risk is food. It is food. That is risk as well. Nobody's saying that isn't. Risk is what is written for you in life. True, risk can also be your goals, your ambitions, your time is your risk. And I thought to exemplify that, look how beautifully it is in this hadith about where the Prophet ﷺ speaks of his wife Khadija radiallahu anha, and he says, "Ruziqtu hubbaha." Allah, that I was given as a risk. I was granted as a risk her love. You see, even love is from risk. And why is that important? Because sometimes you see people that they haven't been granted that. Lam yurzaqu. You know, that the risk is of many categories. It doesn't have to be, sure, money is also risk. Nobody's denying that. Having a flashy car is a risk. No, having nice clothes, a nice house, having these things is risk. Having happiness is a risk. See, this sometimes people forget to tell you. Having love is risk. Ruziqtu hubbaha. That I was granted as a risk her love. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And I thought that's so important to just begin by just highlighting that risk. I know when we think of it, sustenance comes to mind. And by that, we think of nourishment, nutrients, money. We think materialistic terms, which nobody's knocking that. But these are lower order risk. There's higher order risk as well, which is emotions that you are given as a risk. Happiness, you are given laughter as a risk. You're given love. You're given the ability to handle emotions as a risk. Think about that. And then with that in mind, think about this lesson of it is by giving, or it is in giving that we receive. That if you want to expand in something, try and give it. So it could be wealth, it could be emotions, it could be happiness, it could be laughter, it could be love, it could be ambition, it could be whatever it is. You have to give it. You have to exert it. Health. You have to exert your health to get more health. See, success, it pulls success. Like you have to put in whatever you want, you have to spend from that. So if it's, if it's, and it could be at a lower order of things like money and wealth, but it could be what I would call higher order risk, which is more the abstract form. Ideas, risk. This is all risk. And in light of that, some Quranic guidance. Now, beginning is a very there's a very popular verse, Surah Hud, that we've all come across. That وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ. Okay, now those of you, this is the beginning of Juz 12. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. This is incredibly important. Why? First of all, just finishing the ayah, وَيَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا كُلٌّ فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. Surah Hud, verse 6. Now, there's another verse just after it in Surah Ankabut, and we're going to take a look at that. But let's just come back to this. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. Allah. See, sometimes we get worried. Let's go back to the lower order. They're the ones that really bother people, isn't it? Food, money, wealth, my job, my career, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to make that promotion? Am I going to make this target? Am I going to make that deadline? Am I going to be able to make this payment? Am I going to be able to make the rent? Am I going to be able to buy that car? Am I going to be able to put away that kind of money? These things are what concern everyone. Lower order kind of wealth or money issues. Often, or sustenance. There are people who will I have enough money for food next month? There are people right now as we speak that are rationing, that are thinking maybe of their children first, thinking, will they have enough? This coming month, this coming week, will they have enough? May Allah make easy their struggles. Ameen. Thumma ameen. Right? But this verse, look where Allah brings our attention. Because you're worried. You're in that situation, you're worried. It's natural. Allah takes your attention away from you to begin with. So the first thing, you've got to understand the mindset. You take it away from you. You've got reasoning faculties. You've got planning capabilities. You've got intellectual capacities. This is you. All these modalities in your brain to think, to plan. I know I could do this, I could do that. I've got these social networks. I could reach out to this person, do that. I could try over here, endeavor over there. You can think about the future as though you are living in the future and planning. Animals don't have that capacity. They just act in the moment from instinct. They have to seek out their food. Are they going to come across it today? This is generally speaking about creatures in the wild. And it could be any kind. It could be right down to an ant. All the way to a lion. It could be any creature. It doesn't think, right, next week, Tuesday, okay, what am I doing? I know, I'll head over to this place. It doesn't have the capacity to think like that. They think iconically in icons, and they act out of instinct. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ, Allah says, إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. Allah said, that's too cheesy, guy. That what are you? I am sustaining the entirety of creatures. Every creature, its risk is already written from God. And you think, okay, the ant, the beetle, the leopard, the wolf, everything. It's now, where has Allah placed insan in this category? وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Allah, you have a much higher maqam in the eyes of God. It doesn't mean that you're always a better entity. Some humans are capable of, of abysmal atrocities that even animals wouldn't do. Animals don't set up concentration camps. Animals don't nuke one another. Animals don't do certain atrocities that humans do. But insan as a species is much more beloved to God. Has that maqam. He and she here, they've been granted consciousness with a capital C. So you go straight from إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا, remembering that, look, if you think God can sustain all these creatures, have a little faith for the love of God. Have a little faith. And then see how the verse comes straight back. وَيَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا. Now, this is a fascinating, two incredibly fascinating words. Mustaqar can mean a place of settling, or like dwelling, as they've said, or mustawda, a place where it's laid to rest or put away, or so these words can mean different things. So as in mustaqar, where it is, mustawda, maybe it's goal. Now you think, okay, kullun fi kitabin mubin, it is all but in a clear book. Now this kitabun mubin, meaning it is all laid out, destined. But what's important here, Wallahu ya'lamu mustaqarra. This is speaking about the animals coming straight back to you. Why you? Because you're worried about risk. Allah is reminding you, but He knows your settled state and your goal. What are you doing to get to the mustawda? You see, you have to take those steps. It is, Allah will give, but He knows also. This guy's sitting back. Ya Allah, give me. Allah will give, but you have to put the effort in. Huzzi ilayki bi jid'i nakhl. As Maryam alayhi salam, she's heavily pregnant. She's still reminded, shake the tree. Why? Allah could just make the dates and that fall down. They could just, why? As a reminder for mankind that you must, man jadda wajad in Arabic. You have to strive and then it will come to you. So you're not just going to sit there and, it's like just food ain't going to come flying to you. You have to take the steps. يَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا. Forget about people. God knows really where your goal is and where you currently are at and what you are doing. And we all fall short. But this is such a beautiful reminder, a very popular verse. I thought, let's share that. And from Surah Ankabut, verse 60, which has a different nuance to it. وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ لَا تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا. Allahu Akbar. Check this out, people. You're going to love this. Right? And how many creatures, Allah is saying, how many creatures that وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ لَا تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا. Do you see it carrying its rizq around on its back? Allahu yarzuquha wa iyyakum. Oh, wow. Honestly, that وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. This, check, honestly, you know, when you think about this, you're going to absolutely love it. How many creatures do you see? Because sometimes you could be worried. A person could be worried that, look, I don't know what's going to happen. What's going to happen next month? What's going to happen next week? What's going to happen in 2 months' time? Am I going to get kicked out of a job? Am I going to find this job? Am I going to... Allah says, وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا. Do you see these creatures, any of them carrying their rizq around? وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ. Now look at this. That وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ, Allah is saying that how many of these creatures لَا تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا. Now notice Allah didn't say no creature ever, because that wasn't the point. Because yes, there are creatures that do, obviously they stock away and they do things. But Allah was bringing your attention to the general everyday. Creatures don't plan like you. They don't have that luxury to kind of do things like, well, generally, hey, la tahmilu rizqa, carries its food around with it. You know, I might get hungry on the way, I'll carry this, and I mean, they might carry it from point A to B, but they don't generally, like human beings going on a journey. You know, I'll tell you what, I'll take a few sandwiches with me, and I'll take a few this, and I'll take a few drinks, and I'll take a few. La tahmilu rizqaha. And how many creatures do not do that? God said, Allahu yarzuqaha. But along the way, God feeds them. Wa iyyakum. He's got your back too. Just have a little faith. And I think this is such an important, and why when Allah ends it with وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ, why? Because people cry out in dua to God, and they think sometimes, does God even hear me? Preempting that. Allah is saying وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ. See, it begins with Samia, begins with hearing. He is all hearing. Why? Because he knows you're already crying out thinking, does God even hear me? Allah is saying, وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ. He's all hearing. Al-Alim. Why? Because the next thing you're thinking is, but does he know that next month I'm going to bloody lose this job, or I'm going to be out of a wage, or I'm going to... Al-Alim. And he's all knowing. Taking you back to the beginning of the verse. Do you see these creatures carrying their rizq around? See them with packed lunches. See them on Uber Eats. You don't. Allahu yarzuqha. Allah feeds them, sustains them. Immediately follows it by wa iyyakum. He sustains you too. Sometimes you forget that. It happens. Hotaya. You forget it. But God's bringing you back in. Honestly, such an amazing, beautiful reminder, wallahi. I had to, and with that, there's just in line with that, these two verses, which I thought are so important. One from Surah Al-Hashr, verse 9. And starting from here, there's some before it that, let me just bring this up. وَلَا يَجِدُونَ فِي صُدُورِهِمْ حَاجَّةً. And this is Allah is speaking about people who of faith, and is describing this now. لَا يَجِدُونَ فِي صُدُورِهِمْ حَاجَةً مِمَّا أُوتُوا. That people, you see, when they have something, sure, you can love it, but they don't find themselves, they don't find their hearts occupied with what they have. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. This is what I want to share, this part, that they will prefer over themselves, even if it had in it some, some suffering for them. Some, it may not be a lot, but it may be some suffering. وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ. And whosoever is protected from that kind of stinginess of their soul, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And the final verse, which we've covered before from Surah Talaq 3, and I'm just going to come back to the one above, that وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. That Allah, He provides from where people least expect. And whosoever relies on God, Allah sees through for them. Now, coming back to the verse from Surah Hashar, that وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Let me give you an example. We've all, at some stage in life, had something. No, it could be just something we're looking forward to, a small delight. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be something to eat, something sweet, or something you just got hold of. You thought, oh my God, I haven't had that in ages. Oh my God, and you've just got one, and you think, and you're just looking forward to eating it. These, or maybe to drinking it, or to maybe just something small, but you have a certain amount of joy tied up with it. It happens in life, these little joys that we have. And maybe at that point, somebody like your child, maybe, or your friend, or somebody says, you've got that. And and let's just say in this situation, you just had one. I'm sure we've all been in this situation. And the first thing you do is like, it's your child. You'll be like, you have it, you have it. Or if it's a friend or someone, you have it, yeah, you have it, you have it. And يُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. You prefer over yourselves. You see, we all do this. We all do this. And to some extent, even if there is a bit of khasasa, there's like, oh man, I looked forward to that all day. And there could be a little joy in life. This happens, it's relatively easy. It's relatively easy doing that for your own child. For your friend even, it's easy, relatively. You feel, it's okay. But it ain't easy doing that for a third person. When there isn't that emotional bond. A stranger. You're just about to eat something that I couldn't wait. Oh, it's a hot day. I've got this ice cream. Oh, yes. And a stranger comes up. Homeless person. It ain't easy. There isn't that emotional bond with this person. It's not your child or your friend or your family member or your name. It's not. It's who the hell are you? See, this is where the struggle gets real. Allah. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Sure, you have a choice. I'm not saying you need to give that away. It's a tiny, tiny, minuscule struggle. Minuscule. Doesn't even exist in the serious scheme of things. But you see, this is a sign of true faith. Allah. In the hadith it says halawa. It's a thing of taste, experience. And it is in giving that you receive. Remember that. That whatever it is, whatever sacrifices with devotion are made, if it is your time, Allah will bless your time. You will find all of a sudden things getting done in your time. Sometimes you give time and you've got a bunch of other things to do and you think that I'm never going to be able to get, but things get done. You think, how did all this stuff get done? I mean, just someday get super productive. I don't know, but it could be in emotions. You extend compassion to someone, care, love, and you find it building within yourself. You extend knowledge. You find your learning. It's amazing, isn't it? It's paradoxical. In fact, there's a saying in Arabic that تعليم المتعلم طريق التعلم, that teaching a student is to learn twice, roughly speaking. So, because when you're imparting, it is by giving that you receive. And it's the same thing with many aspects. You give people happiness. You know, this is something that I think we all want happiness, but we forget about giving it, extending it to other people. That's a huge thing as well. You know, think about that sometimes. And I think, yeah, so these verses have an immense lesson, and to really remind us that not only that rizq is not just restricted to sustenance. That is an important part of rizq, but it goes beyond that. Providence, this divine providence, is in anything. It could be in emotions, in understanding, in knowledge, in compassion, in humanity, in time, in you name it. It is all ultimately bestowed upon us. And going back to that quote of Maulana Jalaluddin al-Rumi, that give before death, that, you know, from what you've been given, that you might as well give from it before you go anyways. So it's going to, you've got this opportunity. But may Allah bless us all. It is truly, I think it's always important to remember as well that there are many people, and we're all included, but I'm sure many people in, you know, much more dire circumstances that are struggling, and may Allah make things easy for them. Ameen. Ameen. People